Do you have that date in mind?
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection that it was August 9th, 2023?
Yes.
Okay. I want to direct your attention, Officer Dever, to January 28th, 2022. Where were you working? What was your duty assignment on that day, January 28th, moving into January 29th?
Well, 3.5 years later, I remember I was on patrol. I don't remember anything further about this night.
I can remember back in 1991 when I was on patrol, when I first started in the police department, if you would have asked me and put me on a stand today, and I was asked, what is the setup of the cameras in the cells at the precinct, outside the back where the department cars are kept, outside if you had a sally port, we didn't have one, but if there was one, I could damn well tell you, because I worked station house security, not a lot, because I was always out on the street, but everybody spends time inside for different reasons. Your partner takes off, whatever the case may be. I was asked today in 2025 about 1991, I would be able to tell you exactly how the monitors were set up, where the most important points were. That Sally Port is a very important part of security inside Station House. And if you're working the 911 switchboard and a lieutenant tells you to go and work it, he's not going to send somebody that is incompetent. So for her to say that after 3 years, it's really not clear to her, that is, I wish I had a bullshit button.
A bullshit? A bullshit? A bullshit.
Because I would hit that fucking button like a madman right now, because this shit pisses me off because she's lying through her teeth.
She doesn't remember what she told the FBI. Again, I don't buy that. And she says to the FBI didn't tell her that lying to them is a federal crime. I don't buy that either. She starts to mince, she starts the debate about cameras in the Sally Port when she knows she told the FBI she saw these two guys in the Sally Port from the cameras. So she knows there's cameras in there. There's no reason for her to fight over these little issues when asked the simple question, are there cameras in the Sally Port?
She's playing a dummy, and it's not really a good look.
Kelly Dever, last name Dever.
And what do you do for a living, presently?
I'm a police officer.
Where are you employed?
Boston Police.
How long have you been so employed with the Boston Police Department?
2 years and a little over 2 months.
Where'd you work before that?
I worked for the Canton Police.
Were you a sworn officer at that time?
At what time? When I was employed there?
When you were employed by the Canton Police Department?
Yes, I was.
As a sworn police officer?
Yes.
Okay. What was your duty assignment in January of 2022?
I was a patrol officer.
You're familiar with the case that's presently before the bench, correct?
In some capacity, yes.
Commonwealth versus Karen Reed?
Yes.
All right. Did you ever prepare any kind of report based on any of your conduct or your connection with this case, if there was any connection with this case, while you were a Canton police officer?
No.
Were you ever interviewed by any member of the Canton Police Department in furtherance of their investigation related to the death of John O'Keefe?
No.
Were you ever interviewed by the Massachusetts State Police?
No.
Let me finish the question. I got to finish the question, then you can answer. It works a little better that way. Were you ever interviewed by any member of the Massachusetts State Police in furtherance of their investigation into the death of John O'Keefe?
No.
Were you ever interviewed by either the Canton Police Department or the Massachusetts State Police with regard to any of your observations on January 28th or January 29th, 2022?
No.
And you never wrote a report about your observations or any observations that you had on January 28th or January 29th, 2022, correct?
No.
That was a double negative. Let me try that a different way. Did you ever write a report about your observations related to January 28th, 2022, January 29th, 2022?
No.
Thank you.
I'm going to pause this just for a second because I was trying to type something, but my keyboard's malfunctioning. If you felt that the testimony by police officer Kelly Dever of the Boston PD was was honest and trustworthy? Was she being forthright with the defense and the prosecutor? Press a 1 if you thought she was being honest today. Press a 2 if you didn't feel she was being honest. I'm already registering my number 2 right now. But did anybody at this point think that she was going to start crying? Ed, I thought she was definitely going to cry here.
At this point, there's no reason for any of this. And her deflecting and obfuscating and not wanting to answer the question. She knows the answer, and she's lying. She won't give listen, you can lie by omission.
As a matter of fact, the first time you were ever interviewed in connection with anything having to do with this case or this investigation related to the death of John O'Keefe was by a separate law enforcement agency, not the Massachusetts State Police, not the Canton Police Department, correct?
Yes.
That was in August of 2023, is that right?
Yes.
Do you remember the exact date?
No.
Do you think it would refresh your recollection to take a look at a report of that interview?
Yes, because I've never seen it before.
Just insofar as the date is concerned, may I approach?
Yes.
Take a look at the bottom of that page. Just glance at that and tell me once you familiarize yourself with that face page of that report. Okay. Do you have that date in mind?
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection that it was August 9th, 2023?
Yes.
Okay. Did you work overnight, like a late shift going into the morning of January 29th?
That was my assigned shift, so yes.
Okay. Who else was working with you on that particular day, if you recall?
Sergeant Good, Officer Mullaney, Officer Seraph, and Officer Pasquarelli.
And what generally was your assignment when you went into work that night on January 28th?
Patrol.
At some point, either that evening or the early morning hours of January 29th, did you note that a call came in related to a person found in the snow, unresponsive in the snow?
Yes.
Tell me about that. The nature of the call and where were you?
I was in my cruiser. A call came in that said person in a snowbank, something along those lines. Immediately followed by that transmission, my sergeant requested that I come to take over dispatch.
Is that Sergeant Good?
Yes.
Okay. Did you in fact respond back to Canton PD to take over dispatch?
Yes, so I was already in the parking lot of the Canton Police while this took place, so I was already at the station.
Did you note whether or not Sergeant Good and or any of the others responded to the location while you stayed back to handle dispatch at the police department?
Yes, that's why I went inside so he could respond.
Were you aware that Sergeant Good, did you have any knowledge at that time that Sergeant Good was familiar with or knew who Brian Albert was?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you know who Brian Albert was at
No.
that time?
No.
Do you now? At least
Because of
familiar
this
with the
case,
name?
yes.
I spoke over you, I'm so sorry. Based on this case, are you familiar with the name?
The name, yes.
Did you know Kevin Albert?
No. Oh, the detective Kevin Albert. Yes, I did.
Correct. How did you know Kevin Albert?
He was a detective for the Canton Police.
Were you aware of his relationship to Brian Albert at that time?
No.
Are you now aware of his relationship with Brian Albert?
Yes, from the media.
And what is that relationship as you know it?
Sustained.
Did you know Brian Higgins at that time?
Yes, in passing.
I'm not asking if you're social friends, asking if you knew who he was.
Yes.
How'd you know who Brian Higgins was?
He had an office in the Canton Police.
Is he a sworn police officer?
Not for us.
Is he a sworn federal agent?
Yes.
Worked for ATF?
Yes.
Okay. How long had you known and been familiar with Brian Higgins? Say, for instance, by sight, to be able to recognize who he was.
Sometime during 2020 is when I was probably first familiarized with him, because that's when I was employed with the Canton Police Department first.
Okay. Pass him in the hallways, hi, bye, things like that.
Yes.
Sustained is to form, Mr. Jackson.
Understood. Did you know him by sight?
Yes.
Could you recognize him if you saw him?
2.5 years later, no, but at the time, yes.
I'm not asking you about right now, I'm asking you back in January 2022. Could you recognize him by sight?
Yes.
Did you know who Kenneth Berkowitz was?
Yes.
Who is Kenneth Berkowitz?
He was the chief of the Canton Police.
Obviously very familiar with him. He was your boss, correct?
Yes.
And then she has amnesia about that. Let me tell you something. She says she testified in 12 cases. I find that highly unlikely in that short period of time. Maybe she's combining what she did in Canton PD and Boston PD. But if you were a defense attorney in those cases, pull your case, put in a review of the case and bring her back in and see if she had foggy memory for what she testified to in those cases.
Yeah.
She's done. She's done as a cop. In any normal law enforcement jurisdiction, she would be done. Nobody would want her to testify in a case.
Absolutely.
Describe the dispatch room. What did that array look like?
There was chairs and computers.
Monitors?
Yes.
Does the dispatch area also have monitors of internal security camera footage?
I know there was camera screens, but I don't know if they were on TVs or computers or where in dispatch they were. I don't recollect where they were or how they would be accessed. They were in the room somewhere. I can't be more specific. I don't remember.
But you do recall seeing that there were monitors that were showing different views of internal security camera footage of Canton PD, correct?
The specifics, no. Were there? Yes.
Ed, did you just curse? Ed's been cursing quite a bit.
Did I curse? I don't know. Did I curse?
Maybe you did, but maybe you didn't.
I can't. My memory's gone. I can't remember.
Did you see the police commissioner?
I don't know what you mean by specifics. I'm asking you, were there monitors that you could look at that showed security camera footage from inside Canton PD, different areas, hallways, corridors, offices, the Sally Port, for instance?
So, 2.5 years since I've...
You keep saying 2.5 years later.
So let her finish her answer and then ask a question.
Sure.
It's been years since I've been in that room. They were somewhere in the room. Where cameras were in the Canton Police Department, I don't recall. The media's provided me information since this case took place, and I can't speak on what's my recollection and what's been media provided. There are cameras. I don't know where on my memory where they are.
So has the media informed you that there were internal security monitors at the dispatch location?
So the objection is sustained. Next question.
Now, wildly long period of time. Yeah, I have so many notes here. It's like going through it. But she was interviewed on 8/9 of 23 by the FBI, and then all of a sudden, magically, the chief of police, the chief, calls her into his office.
Commissioner.
How often is the commissioner calling people? And you and I had a discussion. I've seen the commissioner 2 times, a couple times in my career. Once is when I retired. Another time at a function, and I was introduced to him by a family member, police commissioner at NYPD. You told me a half a dozen times or so for different incidents.
Most of my stuff was for briefings on high-profile cases, the 93 World Trade Center attack, the 9/11 attack. I lifted a fingerprint off a human skin, and it was the first time that occurred, and I had to go up and demonstrate it to the police commissioner.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
But on a 2-year wonder and to say, good job, you did a great job.